Now, Facebook depends on Zynga for 12% of its revenue. Zynga, in turn, gets over 90% of its money through Facebook. For the moment, the relationship remains symbiotic, but both companies have been taking steps to become less dependent on each other. Facebook wants to see more game developers succeed on its platform, and Zynga wants people to play its games on platforms other than Facebook. Our editor-at-large, Cory Johnson, is in the newsroom with more on Silicon Valley's most public partnership. Cory?
Yeah, it wasn't always like this, Emily. You know, back when Zynga was starting out, Facebook was just one of many other social networks, MySpace, Bebo, Friendster. Paul Martino remembers he was Zynga's first investor, joins us now. So congratulations to the company's out. You, at least are, on paper, have done all right so far. But we know a lot more about Zynga than we did even before the company went public with these first quarter earnings. One of the things that jumped out at me was the company's relationship with Facebook continues to be sort of hand in glove.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when not only are you disclosed as being 12% of the revenue of another company, but it's explicit as opposed to something the analysts got to go figure out. That's when you're a material part of someone else's business.
There's more to figure out. I mean, we like that. It would have been nice if they updated those kinds of numbers,
right.
But we have to assume they stayed somewhat like the same. Another interesting statistic to me was just, I'm trying to tweeze out how important certain games are in their business. And when the Q is foul, we'll have a better idea, the quarterly report or the annual report in this case. But what's your notion of Zynga's ability to invent great new games?
Yeah, well, what's fascinating is the way that the monetization happens. As they said on their conference call, their business is not exactly like a completely hit-driven business like film. It's a lot more like episodic television, where you can go back to a title and mine it. For example, they talked about their top 3 games this quarter versus last quarter, and they were remarkably similar, and Farmville was one of them. And that's fascinating that a game that is now 2.5 years old is producing as much revenue for the company as it is. Take a look, their first game, Zynga Poker, almost 4 years old, 5 years old now, produces more revenue than many of the other games.
Well, I mean, poker wars with friends seem to be in a class of their own.
Yeah.
You know, Mafia Wars has really fallen off as a percentage of revenues as much as we know. Again, they haven't given us the exact quarter-over-quarter comparisons. But the ability to create these games in-house doesn't seem to have bothered the company, but to me it would be a concern.
Well, they have a huge data advantage over any of their competitors. They can concept a game and find out if it's going to be a winner by doing a quick test of their audience. They can put up a quick banner to see if a concept might resonate with its audience and then decide to double down. And they don't turn on their primary viral channels for their big games until the bugs are gone. So they have a very interesting way to produce games versus what you have to do when you're making a film. With a film, you got to get a test audience, you got to put it in front of them, did it work, did it not work, and you got to put all your money out on week 1 of the release. Zynga has a very different model, and it's why I think the company is valued as highly as it is.
Now, you know Mark Pincus a long time. There were stories that came out before the IPO about essentially a clawback, him going to employees who were given stock options early on, saying, if you want to keep your job, give back some of the stock options. And I wonder if you worked there, and Mark said to you, your friend Mark, said, give me back some of your stock options, I gave you too many. Well, you would have said to Mark?
Well, I'll tell you this, it wouldn't have happened because I would have been working the hours that Mark would have expected me to work. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sure that if there's any truth to those stories, it was employees that weren't putting in the kind of hours Mark himself was. And when I was CTO of Tribe under Mark, I was putting in those hours. So I think if I ever had that conversation, it would have been, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, a deal's a deal, though. I mean, it made me wonder about the environment, how long people are going to want to work there. You know, I've read a lot of the stuff online with former employees kvetching about their time there, and it's hard to figure out if there's a culture that works there or not.
Well, take a look at the scorecard on who's taking executives from which companies. A lot of people wrote a lot of articles saying, hey, once Zynga goes public, people are going to run for the hills. As far as I can tell, Electronic Arts has lost more employees to Zynga than the other way around since the IPO.
Now, your experience with Zynga as an investor, because you're running your fund and looking for similar kinds of deals, what have you learned from it? Has it opened doors for you to other investments?
Oh, sure. When you can be in one of the great investments of the past decade, that's great for being a member of Bullpen Capital. Certainly, that's a huge advantage to be in one of the deals like a Groupon, like a Zynga, like a Facebook. And we're finding the fundraising market to be very interesting as we start raising our Fund 2. Fund 1 is now closed. We've had 2 significant exits in the past 6 months, and we're very excited about the progress.
So the Groupon was the first?
No, the 2 exits in our fund, SanDisk bought FlashSoft last week, and Salesforce bought Assistly a few months ago. They were the first 2 exits in our fund.
Great stuff. All right, Paul Martino, really appreciate your time here. Love your insight into what's really going on there at Zynga and elsewhere. Emily?
Thank you.